Chair recognizes the Sergeant at Arms. Please admit the Honorable Senate.
Okay, I should probably start it though. If you...
Yeah, because
I'm going to start. Would people please take their seats? The joint session is about to start. Okay. The joint session will come to order. All members and guests should take their seats. The senator from Norfolk and Suffolk, Mr. Rush, has filed an order which the clerk will read. The question comes...
Hold on, Madam President.
Sorry, go on.
Order that a committee be appointed consist of members of the Senate and House of Representatives to wait upon Her Honor the Lieutenant Governor, the constitutional officers, members of the Executive Council, and other distinguished guests of the Governor, and inform them that the two branches are now in convention and request the honor of their presence.
The question comes on adoption of the order. All those in favor say aye, opposed no. The ayes have it, and the order is adopted. The committee on the part of the Senate is as follows. Senator Hines of Berkshire, Hampshire, Franklin, and Worcester. Senator Lewis of Middlesex. Senator Goby of Worcester, Hamden, Hampshire, and Middlesex. Senator Keenan of Norfolk and Plymouth. And Senator Tran of Worcester and Middlesex.
On behalf of the House, the chair recognizes the following: Representative McMurtry, Representative Poirier, Representative Frost, Representative Ferguson, Representative Kane, Representative Whips, Representative Vincent, Representative Honan, and Representative Fiola. House members will please form in the well of the House.
See Tran?
Senator O'Connor from Plymouth and Norfolk, would you join the well? The committee will form in the well of the chamber and proceed to the governor's office under the escort of the sergeant at arms, and the joint session will be in a brief recess.
I haven't seen him, but it doesn't matter. It's on that last one.
That's okay.
On the second committee, I believe O'Connor was going to go get the governor. So what we should do is we should send Fatman instead.
Okay.
He's here. I see him.
Admit the honorable committee. Please have your seats. Admit the honorable committee.
Madam President, the Joint Committee has informed the Lieutenant Governor, the constitutional officers, and the Governor's Council that the legislature is ready and they are on their way.
Thank you for your hard work. And the committee is discharged from further duty. Thank you. Great job.
No, here he comes. So wait a all the names on the wall takes them. Ray will introduce the ball. He's got some lieutenant governor. He'll do just the office of the governor. Paul will bring in the committee and Ray will bring in the okay. So they kind of go together. Yeah. He's gonna bang the thing. Right. Ready? Yeah, he's ready.
Okay. The chair recognizes the chief court officer. Please admit the lieutenant governor, the constitutional officers, the executive council, and your distinguished guests. Thank you. her color. Okay. Okay, if guests could please take their seats. I will now ask Reverend Dr. Conley Hughes Jr. of the Concord Baptist Church of Boston to deliver the invocation.
Let us pray. O Lord our God, for your grace and divine blessings, we are thankful to you for giving us a governor to exercise executive authority and stewardship of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Even now we acknowledge your presence that permeates this hallowed space we share. As we gather here this evening, we can hear the voices, although faintly, of the men and women who worked tirelessly to define and shape our Commonwealth into a place where people of all languages, ethnicities, and heritage could stand on common ground in respecting the dignity and worth of all people. We invoke your presence in this chamber for our esteemed 72nd Governor, His Excellency Charles Dwayne Baker, who is keenly aware that the work of justice, fairness, and the development of a more perfect Commonwealth is the continuing task before us. We thank you for the strength, vision, and compassion of our governor, for his resilience and resolve, determination to give fully of himself to meet the needs of all of the citizens of this Commonwealth. We beseech you, O God, to give our governor wisdom, insight, and courage as he proposes legislation and programs to lead this Commonwealth in this, the third decade of the millennium 2000. And as he continues to cast a vision for all of the citizens and residents of each of the 351 cities and towns, the voice, O God, of John Hancock, the first colonial governor of Massachusetts, has similitude to the thoughts of our governor. When Hancock said, "Continue steadfast and with a proper sense of your dependence on God, nobly demand those rights which heaven gave and no one ought to take from us. Continue to give our governor a listening ear, a discerning mind, and a compassionate spirit for the work ahead." The voice of the apostle of peace and nonviolence, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., can still be heard echoing through the walls of this hallowed place when he, in addressing the great and honorable court 55 years ago, in concluding his address said, "I still have faith in America, and I still have a deep belief that we will solve our problems." Teach us to imbue the love for freedom, justice, and faith in our democracy, exemplified in the lives of great men and women who have and continue to serve in these honorable halls. Teach us, O God, to love our Commonwealth, pray unceasingly for our governor, lieutenant governor, their cabinet, the legislature, judiciary, and all citizens and residents of Massachusetts, that we may reflect what it is to live in a Commonwealth indivisible with justice and liberty for all. For yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory forever. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Hughes. The senator from Essex and Middlesex, Mr. Tarr, has an order which the clerk will read.
Order that a committee be appointed to consist of members of the Senate and House of Representatives to wait upon His Excellency the Governor and to inform him that the two branches are now in convention for the purpose of receiving such communication as he may be pleased to make to them relating to the concerns of the Commonwealth.
The question comes on adoption of the order. All those in favor say aye, opposed no. The ayes have it, and the order is adopted. The committee on the part of the Senate is as follows. Senator Boncory of Suffolk and Middlesex, Senator Lovely of Essex, Senator Moore of Worcester, Senator Roush of Norfolk, Bristol, and Middlesex, Senator Timilty of Norfolk, Bristol, and Plymouth, and Senator Fatman of Worcester.
On behalf of the House, anyone who I didn't appoint earlier. No, I'm just kidding. Representatives Wagner, Representatives Jones, Santiago, Representatives Hogan, Representative Oral, Representative Cullinane, and Representative Beal. Please assemble all representatives in the well of the House.
The committee will meet in the well and be escorted by the Sergeant at Arms. The session will be in a brief recess. If guests could please take their seats, please. If guests could take their seats. We need to keep this moving on time. So please come to order. I'd like to welcome some guests and introduce Mr. Speaker, Lieutenant Governor Polito, Secretary Galvin, Treasurer Goldberg, Attorney General Healy, Auditor Bump, members of the Executive Council, my colleagues from the Senate and the House, and distinguished guests. It is truly an honor to welcome you to this historic chamber, this historic and beautiful chamber, to hear about the state of our Commonwealth tonight. I have the duty this evening of welcoming a number of distinguished guests who have joined us to hear our governor tonight. And I will mention some of them and then some I will mention later on. On the House floor, we have members of the Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court. You can clap. Many of the Chief Justices from our district courts. Congressman Richard Neal, welcome. Mayor Marty Walsh from the City of Boston. President of our UMass system, Marty Meehan. Former Mayor Ray Flynn, welcome. Boston Police Commissioner Gross, welcome. And many, many of our state's great sheriffs and our terrific district attorneys, too many to mention. Give them a round of applause. I know we have with us today a number of mayors representing cities from across our great Commonwealth that are also seated in the House gallery. Please join with me in welcoming all of them to the State House. Okay, we will be taking a brief recess as we await the next part. Thank you. Governor.
The next part is here.
That was fast. So where are we here? No, that's the lieutenant governor. Admit the Honorable Committee. Committee, do we have a response from our governor?
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President, you have the committee behind me. We do have a response from the governor on our invitation to this august chamber, and he said he is honored and looking forward to sharing his vision for the Commonwealth in 2020 with all of us.
Well, I thank the esteemed committee, all of the members, and thank you for performing such a special task, and you may now disband. Thank you. Okay. Joining us in the Speaker's Gallery, please welcome, for the 6th time in her capacity as First Lady, Lauren Baker. We give you and members and friends of the Baker family a very warm welcome tonight. Thank you. They are joined by Mr. Steve Rodoulakis and many other members from the family of the Lieutenant Governor. I whipped out this. At this time, I would ask members of the Worcester City Fire Department to post the colors. Just over 2 months ago, on November 13th, 2019, our Commonwealth and the city of Worcester tragically lost another first responder in the line of duty while battling the uncontrolled flames of a burning home. On that night, firefighter Lieutenant Jason Menard, a 10-year veteran of the Worcester City Fire Department and a father of 3, died while making a rescue attempt and after saving the life of his fellow firefighter who had succumbed to the deteriorating conditions inside that home. That is why tonight we invite the color guard from the City of Worcester Fire Department to post the colors, not only in tribute to Lieutenant Menard, but also in honor of his family of firefighters in Worcester, and as representatives of all the Commonwealth's first responders to whom we owe an immeasurable gratitude always. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the City of Worcester Fire Department Color Guard to the State House and thank them for all that they have done and all that they will do. It is now my honor to introduce a special group of women who have shared the sacrifice of supporting our men and women in uniform, members of the Gold Star Mothers and Wives of Massachusetts. I invite them down. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Gold Star Mothers, Tracy Taylor, Kathy Martin, Chris Devlin, and Tracy Racine. And our Gold Star wives, Jacqueline Kelly, Donna Miziazik, Jeanette Rose Gutschall, and Marion Dennehy. These women whose sons and husbands perished during conflicts in Vietnam, Afghanistan, Beirut, and Iraq represent all the Massachusetts Gold Star families and join us tonight in honor of their loved ones and to remind us tonight and every night about the true meaning of sacrifice. At this time, I would ask the Gold Star mothers and wives to lead us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you so much for being with us tonight to help make this special. Thank you. Thank you. I ask that we now retire the colors. Let's all thank our officers once again for their service and remember those who could not be with us today. The joint session will be in a brief recess. The joint session will come to order. Admit His Excellency Charles D. Baker.
President. How are you? I'm good.
It is my honor to introduce His Excellency, the Governor of our great Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Charles D. Baker.
Glad you didn't wait for him to sit down. Please sit. Thank you. Thank you. Terrific. Thank you. Hopefully I won't need it. Mr. Speaker, Madam President, members of the House and Senate, Congressman Neal, Mayor Walsh, Ambassador Flynn, thank you very much for being with us tonight. Members of the Governor's Council, Mr. Chief Justice and members of the Judiciary, members of my cabinet, fellow constitutional officers, sheriffs, district attorneys, mayors, local officials, Reverend clergy, distinguished guests, to our Lieutenant Governor, Karen Polito, my partner in leading this administration, I want to take a moment to extend gratitude on behalf of all of us here today for your work as chair of the Sexual Assault and Domestic Violence Council, co-chair of the STEM Council, and for your tireless work helping us build strong communities. To my wife of 32 years, Lauren Baker, I thank you and love you for all that you are. So this past holiday season, you and the team at the Wonder Fund distributed over 125,000 gifts to more than 50,000 kids who are served by the Department of Children and Families. One more amazing example of the work you all do to support the children served by DCF. Thank you. To the men and women in public safety, law enforcement, and corrections, we're all grateful for everything you do to keep our communities safe. The horrific, unprovoked attack at Susan Baranowski several weeks ago reminded us that this is difficult and at times very dangerous work. And in these deeply troubled times throughout the world, our hearts and our hopes are with our men and women in uniform and their blessed families. And to the Gold Star families who are here with us tonight, you and your loved ones are heroes to us all. To my fellow citizens, thank you for this opportunity to serve, and thank you for your insights, high fives, fist bumps, and obvious commitment to your communities, your friends and family, and one another. Your kindness and generosity are like oxygen for the rest of us. Now, last year, we made real progress on issues that make a big difference in the lives of our residents. Let's start with vaping. We led the nation in responding to this growing body of evidence concerning this relatively new activity. As the warning signs of sudden illness, injury, and death here in Massachusetts and across the country became clear, we acted. Together, we moved quickly to protect our teens and adults, and today we have the most comprehensive legal framework in the country to oversee and regulate this untested and potentially dangerous activity. We're now implementing the nationally recognized criminal justice reform law we passed in 2018. I want to give a special thanks to the members of the Black and Latino Caucus for your insights and observations along the way, because your contributions have been invaluable. Last January, we proposed to expand the Medicare Savings Program, and starting this month, 40,000 low-income seniors will save thousands of dollars on their out-of-pocket drug costs. And when we took office, many communities in Western Mass had no plan for installing high-speed internet. But later this month, after 4 years of work and great support from the legislature, every one of those communities will either already have high-speed service or will have a plan in place to make it happen. Thank you. Our economy is booming, our unemployment rate is below 3%, and we have more people working than any time in our history. Strong fiscal management and a robust economy have resulted in back-to-back billion-dollar budget surpluses, which we collectively use to double down on our rainy day fund. Today, that fund balance stands at $3.5 billion, its highest level ever by a wide margin. Congratulations. We also cut taxes for working families twice and delivered on a promise made to the voters 20 years ago to reduce the state income tax to 5%. There you go. And finally, we've taken bold action to tackle the opioid crisis and have shown the rest of the nation the way forward. Working together, we nearly tripled state spending on prevention and treatment, and what was a public policy catastrophe now offers hope for families and a dramatic reduction in the shame of stigma. We've been able to do all this by finding common ground, by refusing to engage in the partisan nonsense that consumes so much of our national politics, and by putting the people of our Commonwealth first. And that's why I can stand here before you tonight and say without a doubt that the state of our Commonwealth is strong. But there's much that remains to be done. We have to align our healthcare policies with the nature of illness and the 21st century hopes and expectations of our residents. We're a national leader on climate policy, but we have to take more decisive action. Our economic success means we have to address long-standing issues in transportation and housing. We have to continue to reduce the skills gap between people looking for better work and the needs of many of our employers. And we must ensure that every child, regardless of who they are or where they live, has access to a high-quality education. Now, in healthcare, we've done a lot of great work over the past 5 years. Our leadership in fighting the opioid epidemic has set the table for other states. We've maintained access to women's health services in the face of dramatic federal cutbacks. The multi-decade clinical embarrassment at Bridgewater State Hospital has become a new lease on life for many of those who are committed there. A health connector that had become a national punchline now stands as a model for every other state, providing affordable health insurance coverage to over 300,000 people here in Massachusetts. We cleaned up the out-of-control Mass Health program, dramatically expanded community-based mental health services, and limited the growth in total health care spending. But there's much more we should do. Our administration filed a major health care reform bill last fall, and we appreciate the legislature's decision to schedule a hearing on that bill later this month. I don't plan to go over all 179 pages of that bill tonight, but you know that I'd love to. Now, put simply, for the past 50 years, our healthcare system has been focused on promoting and supporting the technological advancement of medicine. And that focus has cured disease and saved lives. But even as that progress has continued, our healthcare system has failed to adapt to the changing nature of illness and the gaps in care that have been created by this approach. For years, we've neglected preventive services that keep people healthy and out of our emergency rooms, like primary care, addiction services, geriatrics, and behavioral health care. We're also an aging population. Many of us who live to the age of 60, me and a lot of the other people in this room, will likely make it into our 80s and 90s, where brain diseases are far more common than they used to be. For a variety of clinical and sociological reasons, mental health, addiction, and behavioral health issues are far more challenging than they were in the past, and increasingly intertwined with physical illnesses. A 21st century health system should presume that time spent with patients and their families matters. People dealing with 2, 3, or 4 chronic illnesses need guidance, advice, and support, and so do their family members. Our system should reward clinicians who invest in time and connection with patients and their families, but our current system does not, and that is a major problem. At its most fundamental level, our proposal is about nudging caregivers and health plans to put more resources into time on primary care and behavioral health services while limiting the overall growth in healthcare spending. Now, Massachusetts has always led the nation on healthcare, and on this one, we should do it again. Federal disaster relief spending today is almost 10 times higher than it was 30 years ago. Let's think about that. From fishing and farming to critical public infrastructure and basic necessities like clean drinking water, there's no dispute that the consequences of climate change are real and potentially devastating. Thankfully, despite significant steps backward in Washington, we in Massachusetts continue to lead. We created the first municipal vulnerability program in the country so local communities would have the ability to address future threats before they occur. More than 285 communities have joined us, and with our support, they're working to protect their property and infrastructure from the effects of climate change. We're committed to expanding this essential program to all 351 communities, and will bring this administration's total investment in climate resiliency to just over $1 billion by 2022. But cities and towns from the Berkshires to Cape Cod will need more support to finish the job. That's why we propose creating a trust which would generate about $130 million every year to protect critical infrastructure, fix culverts, design flood plans, and adapt to our new reality. Let's face it, on this, time is not our friend. We urge the legislature to move quickly on this critical bill. Massachusetts also leads the nation in procuring clean, renewable energy. 2 major affordably priced offshore wind projects await federal approval. Combined with our Canadian hydropower project, these investments would meet 30% of our electricity consumption requirements and at the same time eliminate 5.7 million metric tons of greenhouse gas emissions every single year. But yesterday's solutions and yesterday's plans are no longer sufficient. We must continue to take bold action to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So tonight, I'm committing the Commonwealth to achieving an ambitious climate goal: net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2050. That's why we're working with our colleagues across the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic states on a regional transportation and climate initiative. This encompasses 70 million people and 50 million vehicles. Greenhouse gas emissions from transportation have been on the rise for decades and now represent 40% of this state's total emissions. Unless we take on transportation, we won't meet our objectives. And I get that this is going to be hard, but together, I believe we have a real opportunity and, more importantly, a responsibility to achieve significant reductions in transportation emissions. Now, RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative that our proposal is based on, has worked for 10 years. Power plants have adopted clean energy solutions and funded energy efficiency programs, investing $3.3 billion across the region. Greenhouse gas emissions in the power sector have also dropped by nearly 50%. Applied to the transportation sector, the same market mechanisms can encourage automakers and fuel suppliers to find efficiencies and deploy cleaner fuels. In addition, the Transportation and Climate Initiative will deliver millions of dollars in needed investments in our transportation infrastructure. It's a critical part of expanding public transportation, transforming our highways, and reducing congestion. But our transportation challenges are far more expansive than just climate change. Decades of underinvestment in the T have combined with the skyrocketing growth of our workforce and 100 million Uber and Lyft rides annually to put tremendous pressure on every part of our transportation system. The issues we're all dealing with and the loss of time and reliability that comes with them are unacceptable. Since 2015, we've been working this hard. That's why we were the first administration in state history to invest more than $1 billion a year to build a better T. We're also the first to fund an unprecedented 5-year, $8 billion infrastructure modernization program to improve reliability and add thousands of seats to the system. It's why we rescued the $2 billion Green Line Extension project, expanded commuter rail service, and funded and began building the decades-delayed $1 billion South Coast Rail project. It's also why we replaced a third of the bus fleet, expanded the Silver Line, and continue to enhance and expand dedicated bus lanes. But we have much more to do. Said the senator. To build on those improvements, we filed an $18 billion transportation bond bill last year, the largest ever. $11 billion would be invested in road and bridge improvements, with another $7 billion for additional expansion and modernization of transit, commuter rail, and bus service. Our 2021 budget proposal will include an increase of $135 million in operating funds for the T. This will ensure that the T has the resources it needs to implement the recommendations of its safety review panel and continue to accelerate service improvements. And we all know traffic is also a problem, and it's no longer just at rush hour. Transportation network companies provide a valuable service, but they clog our roads and operate with very little oversight. Legislation that we filed will give us the information and the tools that we need to better manage where they can go and when, so that they remain a vital but less disruptive part of our transportation community. Now, I know these are big, complicated issues, but we urge the legislature to act as quickly as possible on these bills. The sooner we have access to both the tools and the funding, the sooner we can make our transportation system safer, better, and more reliable. Five years ago, we made a significant commitment to significantly increase state investments in affordable, workforce, and transit-oriented housing. 18 months ago, you passed and we signed the largest housing bond bill in state history. Homeless families are being supported in more appropriate settings, which is why virtually all of the hotels and motels that used to shelter homeless families have been retired. We are making progress, but demand is outpacing supply. The result? Families are forced to rent substandard housing or move further away from jobs. And seniors either move out or face financial ruin. Our current zoning laws are not working. They're a wall between the well-off and the up-and-coming. They punish families and young people who are not already in the market, and they make it almost impossible for local communities to do what makes sense for their residents. Now, we talk a lot about the need for greater equity these days, but a proposal that removes the single greatest barrier to housing that families can afford has been sitting under review for years. We say we want to make Massachusetts more affordable, and yet thousands of units of desperately needed housing get majority support from their local communities only to fail to be built, because current zoning laws require a supermajority vote. Now, I get that some advocates think our housing production bill is too much, and that others think it's not enough. What I know for sure is doing nothing, maintaining the status quo, has been hurting families for years. For the sake of our communities, our young people, our seniors, and our families, let's find the common ground on housing policy that must be in here somewhere, and let's get this one done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. To keep our economy moving in the right direction, we're focused on two important initiatives. First, Lieutenant Governor Polito just spent a year touring the Commonwealth, hearing from local leaders, legislators, private companies, and nonprofits as we drafted our economic development plan for this term. The finished product is appropriately called Partnerships for Growth, because we succeed when we work together. And legislation based on this report will be filed for your consideration next month. The second initiative will focus on addressing the persistent skills gap we have between people looking to work their way up the jobs ladder and the needs and expectations of many of our employers. To address this, we'll launch a $15 million partnership with our vocational schools to give thousands of people, adults and high schoolers, hands-on educational opportunities they don't have now under our current approach. The partnership will transform vocational schools to provide classes in 3 shifts. Adults can take classes during the evening. Traditional high school students can take classes after their regular school day, and full-time vocational students can attend as they do now. These career technical institutes will turbocharge our approach to applied learning and industry-specific credentialing. We believe over the next several years, this partnership will train 20,000 new skilled and diverse workers in key trades and technical jobs. Thank you. Our economy is the envy of the nation, and we look forward to working with you so that everyone in Massachusetts has the skills they need to be part of our collective success. Now, yesterday, or at least it seems like yesterday, we enacted another groundbreaking education reform law during the first half of this legislative session. Improving education began in the 1990s when we passed a law that included a major infusion of new state funds in our schools, combined with accountability measures. Parents, teachers, and students ran with it and took Massachusetts from the middle of the pack to among the nation's leaders in K-12 education. In 2010, we expanded the toolkit so we could work on fixing troubled schools and districts. Among other things, this made it possible for Jeff Riley to become the receiver superintendent in Lawrence, which was a transformative event for the kids and families in that community. The new law builds on the first two and makes an unprecedented $1.5 billion commitment of new state funds to elevate our kids and our schools. But let's remember, these funds are just the foundation. Dollars are important, especially in the communities that will benefit most from this infusion of resources. But they're not the only thing that has to change. The money didn't change in Lawrence under then Superintendent Riley. Lawrence worked well because everything else changed. The new leadership, combined with gifted and talented programs, acceleration academies, parental outreach, applied learning opportunities, longer school days, and early college programs, helped students find their footing, and they blossomed. Thank you. To date, 154 Lawrence High School students have graduated with more than 2,600 college credits at no cost to them or their families through our early college program. Dozens earned full scholarships at area colleges. And joining us today are 11 of them. 6 who attend Merrimack College and 5 who go to Northern Essex Community College. Mayor Dan Rivera, can you and your students stand and be recognized? Woo-hoo! Congratulations, scholars. I know I speak for everyone here tonight when I wish you all the best as you continue your education. Now, many people have questioned the state's ability to fund our new education law. But I think that may be the easy part. The harder part will be implementing the proven strategies in schools and districts throughout Massachusetts that change the game for kids. This is our chance to give every child in the Commonwealth the opportunity they deserve to be great, and we should fully embrace it. As I look back over the past 5 years, I can't help but be gratified by the opportunity to serve and humbled by the experiences that come with it. Gratified by the progress we've made in so many areas, and honored to have the chance to build on that work going forward. But mostly I've been humbled by the people I've met, the stories they've told me, and the chance they've given me to walk, if only briefly, in their shoes. The courage and kindness of so many families who've lost loved ones in the line of duty. The grit and the perseverance of the people I've met battling their own addiction or the addiction of a family member. The foster parents and foster children who've taken the time to tell me their stories without mincing any words along the way. The faith and resilience of John, Nancy, Jen, Andrew, Julie, and Pete Frates. They are a family that turned a terrible twist of fate into an opportunity to change the world. Day after day after day, as Pete descended into the grip of ALS, he and his family fought the disease and raised awareness and hundreds of millions of dollars, changing the game forever for all those impacted by ALS. Now, Pete's sister Jen and brother Andrew are here with us tonight, and you both grace us with your presence. Thank you. Now, because we are lucky, most of us will live lives that are filled with manageable problems to be solved. The loss that many families suffer through is the exception to the rule. But in these public jobs, we often have a role and a responsibility to share in those family struggles and sometimes in their grief. I'm always blown away by the bravery and decency our neighbors display in what must be their darkest moments. And there are lessons in those moments. They speak to the exceptional nature of the people we have the opportunity to represent. Why we should always strive to make things better, to fix what doesn't work, to get the very best we can out of each other, and to recognize and understand that pointless bickering solves nothing. People who deal with much greater troubles than ours will rightly question us if we waste our time and theirs on the politics of personal destruction. They want us to be better than the yelling they see on TV and across social media. They are not paid advocates, they're our neighbors, and they are reasonable people. They want us to work together to build stronger, safer communities, a better economy, and a more resilient, respectful, and hopeful Commonwealth. They are civil to a fault, and we should be too. Now, we all know that campaigns are contests, and the siren call of sloganeering and cheap shots will be everywhere this year. Let's rise above it. We've demonstrated time and time again over the past 5 years that we can find common purpose, that we can lead and represent the very special people of this very special place we call home, that we can focus on progress, build on what we have, and live up to the ideals, courage, and appropriately high expectations of our neighbors. Let's make them and each other proud. God bless this Commonwealth of Massachusetts. God bless the United States of America. Thank you.
Big thanks to our governor, Charles D. Baker. Thank you again. And now, here to perform Unclouded Day are the University of Massachusetts Lowell Chamber Singers. Please join me in welcoming them here this evening. You almost knocked the roof off this room. Thank you. Thank you for that incredibly beautiful and inspiring performance, and thank you for joining us tonight. You clearly are a big asset to the University of Massachusetts and to our state. Thank you so much. I will now ask Reverend Liz Walker of the Roxbury Presbyterian Church to offer the benediction. Reverend Walker. Thank you.
Let us pray. God of endurance and encouragement, thank you for all the good news tonight. We are so grateful for our governor and all those who have led us this far and will lead us into the future. We are humbled by the news that the state of the Commonwealth is so strong, but we realize there is work to be done. Heal us and restore us, and draw us to one another. Teach us how to really look at each other beyond our worst moments or our greatest fears. Help us search for you in each other's lives. Teach us to distinguish between negotiation and betrayal, when to defend the truth until the end, and when to climb down from our embattled uncertainties in search of peace. Help us to look at each other, to hear each other, and to speak to each other in love, reminding us that the tongue has the power of life and death, and that even the tiniest word of grace can heal, restore, and change another's life. Help us to be more sensitive to our neighbor's needs and remind us that anyone in need is our neighbor. Those who work, those who do not, those who are well housed, those who are homeless, those who are fulfilled, and those who are frustrated. We pray that dark walls of separation may be broken down, that we may learn to know and love each other as you love us. And so we go from here with eyes and hearts lifted for the best that is still yet to come. In the name of all that we hold holy, let the people of God together say, Amen. Amen. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Walker. Very true and just words. At this time, members and guests should remain in their seats while the Sergeant-at-Arms escorts the governor, the lieutenant governor, the constitutional officers, the executive counselors, and distinguished guests from this great chamber. Okay. The senator from Worcester, Mr. Moore, moves that the joint session do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye, opposed no. The ayes have it, and the joint session stands adjourned. Have a good evening, everybody.